So, but I would like to kind of have a kind of concluding conversation about this idea of global competency, building off some of Dan's comments, and hear from you all how you think of global competency from the different fields that are represented here, whether it's a government agency or a local government or business, or so we can have a discussion about global competencies, how we define that, how we envision ourselves participating in this collaboration, developing this kind of symbiotic relationship between these 3 or 4 different entities. So before we leave here, we have a sense of where we're at, what we can offer, what we might expect from each other to begin moving forward. And then with the survey information, we'll kind of aggregate that information and begin to work on developing groups that could look at developing white papers and actually put into place a kind of policy and model for replication elsewhere. So any thoughts on global competency, cultural intelligence? I will not refer to soft skills anymore. I was told not to. So, well, we were talking about this at breakfast. I think the idea when you talk about soft skills, that it's easily dismissed, right? Whereas what Dan is talking about, when you refer to contextual intelligence or cultural intelligence, it gives it a certain level of authority or authenticity or respect that, brings it to an equal level to technical skills or what have you.
Well, I think it gives it that global focus. It's very deliberate, terminology is. I think typically in business and in areas about, even in school systems, people talk about soft skills, and they're talking about those social skills.
Right.
And they do forget. So when you put global terminology to it, I think it's very deliberate. And then you have, like you say, it's an elevated focus.
Mm-hmm. Oh, Jamie.
Oh, thanks. I actually still have a teacher voice. I could yell. But, yeah. I just feel like when you talk about cultural competence, then, and I think everyone in the room probably understands that our children are going to gain that competence probably most quickly and most thoroughly by going and participating in immersion programs. I think we all pretty much agree. We all know that there is also cost associated to that. And unfortunately, cost is something that we don't have in spades in world languages. And I just, feel like we should all continue to create partnerships and learn about what other entities do and can contribute to our field, and especially support those who work very hard, in the government to get funds for us, to create, language resource centers, to create language flagships and grants and all kinds of things. It's quite a job, but I just wanted to comment that I think those partnerships are so important. They're just essential to what we have. And if we want our children to learn these cultural skills, we just have to get them. We have to get them over there, and it's a matter of how. So I appreciate the partnerships that we have, and it's such an all-consuming, time-consuming, thought-consuming process of finding ways to get the children there.
Mm-hmm. Phil.
I don't know that you have to go overseas. It seems to me that there's such a variety of communities in our backyards. The question is how you establish the relationships with them. I think food can be a great way of getting to know people from other cultures and so forth. And I think the city of Atlanta would do well to really try to link school systems with different communities and all the different cultural, educational, and commercial organizations that are.
I think teachers, generally world languages teachers, make a very, valiant and great effort to get their children out into the communities and to experience food and to experience different relations, things that are happening out in the community that are related to their language study. However, the fact of the matter is that we are in this country. We are in America, and even if you have, these language groups or entities, they are still affected in some way, quite often by the American society around them. And even when you travel with kids, you take, kids to France, and everyone speaks speaks English. And we're like, don't speak English to our students. We want them to, interact. You almost have to take them off the beaten path, as it were, I think we took a group to the south of France and went to Italy, and they spoke more French in Italy than they did in France because the Italians didn't speak English. So it's a challenge. It's a challenge to expose them to the language and the culture, even as rich as our own, culturally diverse population is here.
If I could just respond, I think it's terrible to put all the responsibilities on teachers. And I think to have rules of the game established beforehand by maybe an entity from outside could help resolve that problem. But I think you're right. It is increasingly difficult, no matter where you are, to take that step beyond English.
Bill.
So I'm Bill Rivers, and I think some of you heard me speak last year, and just a couple of observations. On the English language bubble, and I just spent 6 days at APEC negotiations living inside that bubble, and I'm very well aware of that phenomenon. But the accommodations can be pretty severe. Really good research now coming out of Europe that the use of English as a lingua franca it takes 3 times as long to come to a deal than if you have language mediation, or if you, and that English, that global English is out there. That's not the English we speak, and they're in the sort of the reverse pattern. We have to accommodate them because their intercultural skills and their linguistic sophistication in global English isn't very high. Now, we've all probably, if you've traveled abroad and you speak a language, you run into this thing where people really want to practice their English with you because they want to get better at their English. They're using you and using your students as speaking partners. We've done a lot of survey work, and Dan's been involved with this, of the business community in the U.S. And the roughly 1/3 that expresses a really high level of demand for global competencies operationalizes it in HR requisitions by looking for high levels of language proficiency and or a meaningful sojourn abroad, which is not the winter term in Sydney, okay? Which it isn't winter in Sydney when it's winter here either, so those kids are probably not doing a whole lot of academic work. And the reason they operationalize it that way is because that they can grab onto that. You can put that into an HR requisition. You can tell recruiters, if you're looking for global competencies, here's how you find it. All of that, the IDI, all that other stuff is great, but when you're sorting through resumes on a college campus, so I think we have to bear in mind, and Rick from the chamber was great on this, that the biggest gap for foreign direct investment coming into Metro Atlanta and for Metro Atlanta's exports are exactly these skills. It's not finding engineers or lawyers or accountants, financial analysts. It's the other global skills that we're looking for.
My name is Mark Greenberg, and I'm visiting from the University of Kansas. I'm the director of the School of Languages, Literatures, and Cultures there. And I found this discussion extremely valuable, and I may just continue a little bit from a view in the trenches from what Bill just said. We've, for a very long time, had decades of support for our Title VI area studies centers, and we built up a lot of language programs, and in fact we teach some 40 languages, many of them critical and less commonly taught. Now the Title VI has been cut back quite a bit. We want to hold on to all of these resources, and we're trying to find new ways of supporting them, hybridizing our income streams. So as director, I've been going around to some of our multinational corporations in the Kansas City area and talking to them about what their needs are. And some of these conversations are very interesting. I've been talking to HR directors like at places like Black & Veatch and Cerner and Garmin. They sort of in a vague way know that they need this kind of global competence, but they don't really know how to ask for it. And what they do know is they know how to go over to the engineering school or the business school, and they know they need X number of accountants, they need these kinds of skills, and that communication loop is very effective. But they don't really know what to ask for in terms of the things that we have to offer. I think we can do a lot as teachers, as administrators, as policymakers, to help create a language and a framework very much like the one that Dan has given us to give HR directors who are making the requisitions, making the job advertisements, talking to deans at professional schools about what it is they need from us. And if they can articulate that, deans in liberal arts colleges will know where to make their investments. And then that'll also help close the loop with the real decision makers, which are the parents and the students who are making the decision on what will turn their education into a career for their Johnny and Jane.
Good afternoon. My name is Vanessa Abraham. I'm Chief of Protocol for the Mayor's Office of International Affairs. Just a show of hands, how many of you know that there's a Mayor's Office of International Affairs? Okay, fantastic. A lot of people don't know, but it was opened in July 2013, and we're a team of 4. And in this team of 4, we have different initiatives, among them leading the Mayor's Trade Mission, assisting along with Rick Hubler, the Atlanta-based companies in their export strategies, working with our international partners, binational chambers of commerce, consulates, and my piece, which is welcoming inbound delegations, and now our focus is also expanding the international growth of Atlanta-based colleges, universities, and schools. And this is a very recent initiative that we've taken upon. We've been meeting with different universities and colleges. Among them, of course, Georgia State, been working very closely with Bill and his team. And also with APS, we've been meeting recently and trying to see how it is that we can truly make a difference. And through the different conversations, of course, we want to further expand exchange programs, but we also want to move the needle a step further. And by that I mean trying to find grants, incentives, in any way where we can help the students go abroad or have the opportunity to exchange with students that are coming, or also we were thinking technology. We've been talking about technology a lot, but what we've been researching is how interesting it is that in other schools are doing Skype or blogs, or working in projects together, focusing on STEM, or even trying to figure out what country it is that they're speaking with in these kind of conference roulette. So this is why we're here also, to meet with y'all and have the ideas, because this is a conversation that we truly want to have, so we can move forward and help the different students. Thank you.
My name is Emily Whitfield, and I'm saying this from a position, I do work with Peace Corps, but I'm saying this from my position as having served in Peace Corps, and as I hear this conversation from the educators and then later the employers, I feel like Peace Corps is that a good gap filler there, because in education, you're going to learn the language. But by going overseas for 2 years, that helps American policy, helps increase the knowledge of Americans of overseas, and it also gives the opportunity for students to get the cultural competency. That alone cannot come from the classroom. I majored in Spanish in undergrad, and I know this. And then for employers on the back end of this, you want the global competency. Who will have that beyond someone who studied? I mean, I'm sitting here saying, well, can I pass my resume to some of you guys? I feel like I'm this global citizen you're looking for. And so the more we can create this pipeline and really increase what students are doing, really enhancing their education, and then there is an opportunity. It's called Employers of National Service, where companies sign on. Delta recently signed on to make it easier to hire returned Peace Corps volunteers, AmeriCorps volunteers. So, and not only allowing them to showcase their cultural competency in your workplace, but also showing you value their international experience, which can just help businesses on the long run. So I just say this again, as I've served in Peace Corps, I see the benefit of this, and I think this is a good gap filler between the education and the career afterwards.
And I just want to stress the fact that it is not only the first hire, but it's also keeping that job. According to the Department of Labor, 69% lose their job within the first year because they don't have the, whatever you want to call it, the soft skills, the cultural intelligence, the common sense skills, or whatever that is. 69% lose their job within the first year because they don't possess those skills. And I think that is exactly where world languages come in as a career skill, career readiness skill, whether they work abroad or work with different cultures or not, but I think those are skills that directly translate back into being ready for the workforce. And I would like to see a study that takes a look at, how many of those 69% have had some kind of cultural exposure or study abroad experience. And I would think that that number is very, very low, and that a lot of those 69%, haven't had that chance. And I think that would be very interesting to see.
My name is Sepak Rigzin. I am a Tibetan language teacher at Emory. I want to just share some of my experiences and wanted to connect with a broader audience, and that too locally here. I started with 2-3 students, and later on I was adopted. This Tibetan language studies was adopted by the MESAS department, Middle East Asian Studies department there, and my boss gave me guidance that why don't you teach history in Tibetan culture. So I studied teaching Tibetan history and culture at the same time, and that really helped me connecting with so many students. Today I have like 25 students in my language classes. So I just wanted to express my gratitude to Emory. Not only Emory has a very small Tibetan language program, but also has tremendous very strong abroad studies program, and also has religious studies program, a lot of research on compassion studies, and so on. And Emory is a private institute that has connected with His Holiness Dalai Lama as well. I don't want to politicize here, but I want to simply say that locally also there is a Tibetan Cultural Center here at Dresden Drive, Drebung Losling Institute, and I have worked there. This is how I landed here. But what I want to say is, if by any chance, can I know that anybody here who has in your institution any Tibetan program, any Tibetan language program for that matter, I would like to connect. And in locally speaking, if any of you are interested in having some kind of program, Tibetan language, Tibetan culture, Tibetan history, I'm very willing to connect and even give my time voluntarily during my summer vacations. So this is what I want to say. My name is Sepak Rigzin. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Great. Well, thank you all for joining us today. This was a fantastic conversation, and I see many opportunities for collaborations going forward. You'll hear from us soon. And it will not be a year before we're seeing each other again. We'll be organizing some other events throughout the year and continuing these conversations electronically and with many of you in person. As I like to say, I'm always up for a coffee meeting or a lunch meeting, and many of you already know this. So keep an eye out for an email from us with these various links. We'll have a survey, and that will be the impetus for developing a more structured policy statement about global competencies and these collaborations that we're looking to formulate. Thank you so much for your attendance and your participation. Thank you.